Is Tourism Hurting Komodo Island? By Ethan G., Simone K., Charlie N., Bennett P., Paige S., and Greta W.
So, to get everyone oriented, we are in Komodo Island, and it's an island off of Indonesia, home to 2,000 people. And a fun fact is that there's more lizards than people, and it's a huge ecotourism spot, and they're seeing a lot of increase in urbanization and habitat loss.
So the yellow-crested cockatoo. It's a parrot-like bird, and native to the island. And some fun facts about it are the shape of its beak is kind of like a multi-tool because it's used to scoop fruit, crack like different types of nuts, prune some like leaves and feathers off of itself, and scraping bark off the trees and to dig. And then another kind of neat fact is about 1,000 of them live on Komodo Island, so they're pretty rare. And another thing, it has a brain to body ratio similar to that of primates, which is a pretty good indicator that they're pretty smart. And so they're facing some pretty difficult challenges right now. One being illegal trade and some of the loopholes between captive bred and like wild caught. So that's contributing to their decline. And as well as competition with other species on the island for nesting sites and predation by other larger birds, is also a pretty big issue. And then probably one of the bigger ones in this list, especially with the urbanization context, is deforestation, due to like the conversion of land into those agricultural areas to support the industry needed for expansion in their country.
So another one of the species is the Komodo dragon, and they are endangered on the IUCN Red List. Some of the threats that they are facing are habitat loss from deforestation and agriculture. They have a fierce competition for prey with the feral dog, which is invasive to Komodo Island. And this kind of goes hand in hand with overhunting of their prey. And also, only 15% of the usable habitat for Komodo dragons is protected. So some facts about its physiology are that the teeth can grow up to 2 inches long and are curved inwards. Their scales are covered in bony plates that are coated in keratin, and the tail grows to be as long as the adult lizard's body, and it's containing fat reserves and can also act like a paddle when they're swimming.
And for the final species we will be focusing on is the green sea turtle. And couple facts about it is that it is no longer on the IUCN invasive species list. And it nests on Komodo Island as well as any other islands in the area. Its population in Indonesia has increased about 2% in the past decade, and it's a keystone species important for the local environment. However, while it is no longer considered endangered, it still does face issues like the fact that it's often caught as bycatch fishing. Pollution is harming the waters in which it thrives. And it's losing habitat due to it's losing habitat and nesting site losses due to tourism and development on its beaches. And finally, climate change it also faces climate change, increasing temperatures of water where it needs to nest and causing weird sex ratios and eggs. And finally, pollution, the most obvious of it, is harming them.
Komodo Island and its surrounding smaller islands have several tourist destinations and attractions. Komodo dragons are obviously the main draw of tourism there and the main reason for the island's fame. There is also a point off of the island's east coast where the manta rays often come to feed, and the parks and tourism businesses often utilize this area as a tourism attraction. The Komodo National Park offers many beautiful views, and they provide opportunities to get close and personal with Komodo dragons and manta rays. There are many coral reefs that can be found around the islands, and tourism companies offer snorkeling, scuba diving, and boating tours around the islands. Padar Island is southeast of Komodo Island and offers a wide view of the islands. Pink beaches can also be found on small islands off of the coast of Padar Island. These beaches bring thousands of tourists to these small, uninhabited islands each tourism season. The problem with tourism in Komodo Island. Tourism contributes to many environmental and infrastructural problems seen on Komodo Island. Overcrowding is a large problem on the island that is mainly caused by tourism. The island is only 112 square miles and brings in around 13 million tourists per year. If you account for high and low seasons of tourism, that could mean over 2 million tourists in Komodo Island during a single month. This leads to roadways, clinics, beaches, and parks being very overcrowded during high seasons. It can also lead to the degradation of roads, which ultimately contributes to sediment runoff and can harm soil quality, which also harms the overall environment. With that many people, trash and pollution is almost inevitable. Many tourists litter and leave garbage along roadsides and beaches, and the tourism industry itself is contributing to global pollution and greenhouse gas emissions, because most tourists travel there by plane or boat, which both contribute to greenhouse gases and environmental pollution. All of these factors lead us to the struggle between conservation and development in Komodo Island. The government has leaned on tourism to support the local economy for several years, but tourism is having adverse effects on the environment and native communities.
So since Komodo Island has been facing some pressure and challenges from tourism, Komodo National Parks management will start closing it in mid-25 to make sure that the natural resources of the park aren't being stressed. But the format of the closures is still developing, and the government also plans on developing other sites like other green spaces that are culturally significant and other local amenities. The national park is also governed by a management plan that's prioritizing sustainability, and it helps develop sustainable tourism plans, rebalances budgets for sustainable development and conservation, and also develops community engagement plans. And the government also supports research on the island. They've also been trying to implement community engagement programs to help better conserve the park. They're mostly planned by the government and directly engage the local villagers, and research shows that that's a good direction to head in. So this is a good use of the government's resources.
Ecotourism and ideas for the future. Land easements are contracts that give a third party access to someone's property for a specific reason or use and can limit a landowner's property usage. These have been used for conservation purposes in the US for decades and have been somewhat successful here. They could be helpful further down the line when more developers are owning properties there, and they would ensure that environmentally important properties are protected, maintained, and can only be used for specific purposes. Increasing regulations would also be a good place to start to help in negating the effects of tourism. Increasing regulations around the number of tourists allowed on the island during certain seasons could help offset the overcrowding problem. This could be done by only allowing each tourism company a limited number of patrons at a time, or by having some kind of database that allows the government to track the amount of tourists housed or brought in by companies. Increasing regulations and fines for littering would also help to mitigate the pollution problems being caused by tourism.
And these are references.